A 2-month nightmare is over for Norwegian Airlines. It finally got its stranded plane out of Iran.
Welcome to Plain English, the podcast that goes at the right speed for English language learners. Listen now and read the transcript online at plainenglish.com. Now, here's Jeff, your host for today's episode.
Have you ever heard the phrase, a perfect storm? A perfect storm is when every possible thing goes wrong. And Norwegian Airlines faced a perfect storm when one of its planes made an emergency landing. Emergency landings are fairly common in the aviation industry. The problem was, this landing happened in Iran, and they couldn't get the plane out for 2 months. Hey there, welcome back to Plain English. I'm Jeff. JR is the producer, and this is episode number 133 of Plain English. That means you can get today's transcript absolutely free at plainenglish.com/133. And as always, our transcripts have interactive translations of all the hardest words and phrases from English to Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, French, Chinese, and Japanese. If you like listening to podcasts, then you would love listening to audiobooks. And whether you want to listen in English, that's if you're brave, or in your own language, Audible has an audiobook for you. And the really good news is that first audiobook you ever listen to is free. That's right. If you sign up for a free trial of Audible, you'll get an audiobook to keep for free for life. If you decide you don't want to pay for the subscription after your free trial, just cancel. No questions asked, and you can keep the audiobook forever. If that sounds like something you'd like to try, head over to plainenglish.com/book, B-O-O-K. You'll be able to read all the details of this great offer there. Free audiobook from Audible, available at plainenglish.com/book. The flight started uneventfully. A Norwegian Air flight took off from Dubai, headed for Oslo, Norway, on December 14th. But during the flight, the airplane experienced engine trouble, low oil pressure in one engine. Now that, in and of itself, was not too bad. The brand new Boeing 737 MAX has 2 engines and can land safely with only one functioning engine. The problem, however, is that the plane was flying high above Iran, a country in which Norwegian Air has never done any business. The plane made an emergency landing in the city of Shiraz, the 5th most populous city in Iran, is known for its flowers, poetry, and beautiful gardens. It is not known to be an aviation hub. Still, the plane was able to land safely. But just one problem. Nobody on the plane had a visa to be in Iran, and Norwegian had no way to fix its plane. Yikes. The captain worked out a deal with the officials at the airport. All the passengers were allowed to stay in a hotel, but they had to give up their passports first. Now, if you travel internationally, you know that you should never let your passport out of your sight. That is basically the only official thing that proves your identity. It's literally your passport out of trouble and back home if you ever get in trouble. Now, Iran has, shall we say, a shaky political relationship with the West. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And of course, the religion, language, customs, laws, they're all different. It's not a place to be taking risks. But the passengers had no choice. They left their passports with the officials at the airport, and they were taken to a hotel. It was luxurious. A piano player greeted them in the lobby. There was a sumptuous buffet of food and non-alcoholic drink. There were comfortable rooms. The passengers were not allowed to leave the hotel, so most of them went to bed sober. The next day, Norwegian Air had arranged for a new plane to come and get the passengers out. Now that replacement plane, hilariously, had to make another emergency landing in Poland since that plane didn't have enough fuel. But eventually, the passengers all got to their destination. All's well that ends well, right? Well, not exactly. You see, Norwegian Air still had this minor matter of a non-functioning airplane stuck in Iran. And that's where this gets really interesting. You remember what I said before? Norwegian Air doesn't do business in Iran. That means they don't have spare parts, they don't have mechanics, they don't have any employees there, and they have no relationship with the government. But they did have a stranded plane, and that was a big problem for one of Europe's biggest low-cost airlines. That big problem was further complicated by the fact that the United States has economic sanctions on Iran. The sanctions say that American companies, products, and services are not allowed to be involved with Iran. No product with more than 10% American-made parts is allowed to be imported into Iran. Remember that this airplane was a Boeing 737, and there is not a replacement engine out there for a Boeing 737 that doesn't have a lot of American-made components. There was almost no way that this plane was getting fixed without any type of American-made products. It needed a new engine, and of course, it was going to need American parts. Now, there is a way to get around the economic sanctions in an emergency. If you think that you deserve an exception to the sanctions, you need to get permission from the U.S. government before you do so. The trouble was, the U.S. government was shut down for about a month, and during that time, non-essential employees were not allowed to work since our national government didn't have a budget. And that meant there was nobody available to process the application from Boeing and Norwegian Airlines. And as a result, the airplane just sat there. The low-cost airline was losing money by the day. Not only were they unable to fly one of their very expensive brand new airplanes, but they were probably paying storage fees to the airport in Iran. Now, by all accounts, the Iranians were good hosts and cooperative with their unexpected guest at the airport. But there was probably always going to be a limit to their patience. So despite the costs, Norwegian and Boeing both kept working the phones and eventually secured the needed permission from the American government to import the parts to get the plane going again. They eventually succeeded 70 days into this ordeal, and the plane finally went back to Stockholm on February 22nd. The plane was only 6 weeks old when it had that engine problem. Oh, brother, not what you want 6 weeks after you buy a plane for over $100 million. What I was wondering as I was listening to this was why airlines even fly over Iran to begin with. And the answer is there really is no great way to get from Dubai to Europe. You either have to fly over Iraq and Syria, not a good idea right now, or fly way out of your way to go over Egypt. Also not ideal unless you want to spend a lot of extra time and money, or you just go over Iran. So that's what most of the airlines do. If you liked today's topic, you might like listening to a full-speed English podcast about it. That's actually how I first learned about this issue. One of the English podcasts that I listen to is called Planet Money, and they did an episode about this exact story. So go to your podcast app and search Planet Money, and then find the episode called The Lost Plane. The Lost Plane. And you can listen to one of the passengers tell his side of the story. Time to say hi to a few listeners. First of all, congratulations to Sedef from Turkey. She got a great score on the IELTS exam and wrote to JR and me to give us the good news. Congratulations, Sedef. Juan liked Kina Grannis as much as I did in Crazy Rich Asians, by the way. He is a pharmacist from the beautiful, and I mean beautiful city of Medellin, Colombia. Danilo from Brazil loved the Crazy Rich Asians episode we did, and he actually read that book in English. Danilo says that if you can understand plain English, then you would actually enjoy reading Crazy Rich Asians, the book, since the vocabulary is pretty simple. Thanks for that tip, Danilo. A couple more. Anne from Germany is 15 years old, listening from Ireland. She's obviously getting a head start on learning English. I'm jealous. I wish I took language learning seriously at that age, but I did not. And speaking of Ireland, Anna from Brazil has been living in Dublin for 2 years now. She went to learn English. Now listen, I'm telling you, if you go to Ireland to learn English, you are brave. The Irish accent is very difficult to understand. Sometimes I don't even understand the Irish accent, and I'm half Irish. So Anna and Anne, have a pint of Guinness for me, and congratulations to the two of you for learning English in Ireland. If you would like to get in touch with us here at Plain English, there are several ways to do that. You can send us an email. I'm Jeff, Jeff, at plainenglish.com. JR is jr@plainenglish.com. You can connect with us on WhatsApp by sending a WhatsApp message to +1 312 967 8757. Today I have an unusual little expression for you, and it's not even much of an expression, but it's a little tool that I want you to have in your English toolbox. And here's what you originally heard. When Norwegian Air had its plane stuck in Iran, it was losing money by the day. That means that every day that went by, it was losing more money. So when you say by the day, it means that one day they lose money, then the next day they lose more money, the day after that they lose money. Every single day they're losing money. They are losing money by the day. Here's another example. Have you ever gotten sick and felt that your illness was getting worse by the hour? Boy, I did. Right after Christmas, I got sick for about 24 hours, but it seemed that I was getting worse by the hour for most of that day. That means each hour that went by, I was getting worse and worse. I'll spare you the details, but trust me, I was getting worse by the hour. Usually, this expression is used when you want to say something is getting bigger or worse or better, whatever, quickly. You would not say that something is getting better by the year. That's pretty slow. Venezuela is experiencing rapid price inflation. The Venezuela Bolivar loses value by the hour. If you get paid in the morning, you don't want to wait until the afternoon to spend all your money. Unfortunately, since the currency loses value by the hour, it loses value really quickly. Every hour, it's worth less. It's a very, very difficult situation over there. I saw a funny interview with the coach of a hockey team. He said, "I get more gray hair by the minute." It was a joke, of course, but what he meant to say was that he's going gray pretty fast. He was saying that because he was coaching a team in a difficult game, lots of stress. So he said he was getting more gray hair by the minute. This is also how you say, at what interval do you do something? So here are a few examples of another way to use by the day, by the hour, etc. It's easier with examples than trying to explain this one. You typically reserve a hotel room by the day. You generally lease an apartment by the year, but you pay rent by the month. If you go to an internet cafe, you probably pay by the minute. If you pay for parking in a big city, You generally pay by the hour if you're staying just a short time. In longer-term parking, you might pay by the day or even by the month. Some hotels let you stay a little longer and pay by the week. You might get a discount at a hotel if you pay by the week. And then, of course, there are some hotels that let you pay by the hour. Those are the hotels to avoid. Are there still internet cafes out there? I guess there probably are. I haven't been to one in a long time. Anyway, that brings us to the end of Plain English for this Thursday, February 28th, 2019. It's almost March. Spring is in sight for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere. Remember to claim your free audiobook in English or in your own language by going to plainenglish.com/book, B-O-O-K. Maybe Crazy Rich Asians would be a good choice. What do you think? If you saw the movie, then you basically know what the plot is. You don't have to worry about getting too lost in the storyline since you already know what happens. That way, you can just concentrate on the English. It's 13 hours of English listening, and if you join Audible's free trial program, you can have it for free and keep it forever. Just check out plainenglish.com/book, B-O-O-K, and read about the details. Thanks again for being with us. JR and I will be back with more on Monday.